Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. A young woman brings home her fiancé to meet her parents, and after dinner the mother tells the father to go find out a little bit more about the young man. So the father takes him into the study and pours him a drink and starts saying, "So what are your plans for the future?" And the young man answers that he's a Bible scholar, and the father's surprised. That's very admirable, but how do you propose to provide for my daughter? And, how will you get a house for her to live in? Because as you can see, and he points around the house, that she's quite accustomed to a certain amount of comfort. So the man replies, "I will study and God will provide for us." So that the father nods his head and says, "And how do you plan on buying the engagement ring? Have you thought about that?" And the man again takes a deep breath and says, "I will concentrate on my studies and God will provide for us." So the father's already getting a little bit cautious and apprehensive, but he continues trying to be as open-minded as he can and says, "And when you have children, what about your children? How will you support them? How will you educate them?" And the young man now again says, "Don't worry about it, sir. God will provide for us." So in this way, from the conversation, it was very evident to the father that the fiancé was going to be very focused on his chosen path. And after he comes out, and his wife very curiously asks him, "So, honey, what did you think?" So the father tells his wife, "Well, the bad news is he has no job and he has no plans." So the wife now also is very concerned, and she looks at him as though, "Oh no." And he continues to say, "But the good news is he thinks I'm God." And you could imagine how difficult it would be for a father to meet any person that a daughter brings home. So many emotions would influence how the father would see a young man that a daughter brings home. I've even heard fathers say that no matter who my daughter brings home, I'm not going to like him. It's already pre-decided. We see in the Ramayana that whenever Ram and Sita are together, Lakshman is always there. So even when Ram and Sita first meet in the gardens in Mithila, Lakshman is with Ram as he is collecting flowers in the garden. At the wedding, Lakshman was there. When Ram gets exiled into the forest and Sita follows, Lakshman also accompanies them. And usually we would think about a third person with a couple as, I think the term used is the third wheel. Unnecessary. Let the couple be by themselves. But even in most photographs, when you see of Ram and Sita, Lakshman's always there. And this is actually extremely symbolic. And so in this next verse of Hanuman Chalisa, it is said, "Prabhu charitra sunibe ko rasiya, Rama Lakshmana Sita Ma Basiya." That in Hanumanji's heart, Ram, Lakshman and Sita is residing. Again, Lakshman is there. And so Ram represents here knowledge, Sita ji represents devotion, love, and Lakshman represents Vairagya, detachment, dispassion. It can also be seen as Ram represents bliss, happiness. Sita ji represents peace. And again, Lakshman represents detachment. And so in all interpretations of what Lakshman represents, it's always the sense of detachment, which I think we could see in a relationship. Lakshman represents our ability to see things objectively. The word detachment is a bit scary to some, but objective thinking is very desirable, because that's the most clear thinking that we can have. And it's so rare because even in everyday life, we don't see things as they are. A kindergarten class was on an outing, And as the class was on the road going to their excursion, a fire truck passed. They were just driving. It wasn't in response to a call. And so as they pulled up at the traffic light, the children got very excited to be next to a fire truck and looked in, and they noticed that on the passenger seat at the front, a dog was sitting. And anyways, young children get very excited about pets and dogs in particular. And they all started speculating without even being asked why the dog was accompanying the fire truck. And one little boy said, it must be to keep the crowd back when there is a fire and then too many people come and they could get hurt, so the dog helps them to manage the crowd. And another little boy said, no, the firemen take him along for good luck. And a third one said, very, very confidently and authoritatively, no, the dog is taken to find the fire hydrant. Without even being asked, already they had their own interpretations, probably based on their likes or dislikes about pets. Somebody who's very close and fond of their pet would want to see it as good luck. So even in a situation which is so ordinary or generic, we don't see it exactly for what it is, just a fire truck with a dog sitting in the front. Then how much more so for our relationships? And the first thing that blurs our vision will be our emotions. When we're extremely angry or sad, or even when we're excitable, we don't see things clearly. We see it through the color of whatever emotion it is we're feeling. And even when we become very attached to a person, and so we see in terms of if my brother or my sister tells me about the person they are dating and invariably talks to me only when they are upset, and so tells me all the negative things about that person, even before I meet the person they are dating, I'm already colored in my perception. For the attachment to my brother or sister would be wanting the best for them. And so this person's obviously not good enough because I've heard them being upset too often. We don't see it necessarily as it is. We see it through our emotions or through our attachments. And even within our relationships, with our siblings, with our parents, with our spouses, the way we see the other person, never mind how we see the people they see, how we see the person we're in the relationship with, even there, we tend to generalize. And so we'll say this person's always very responsible or always irresponsible. And so we don't see each situation separately. We kind of bundle it all up together and blur it out. And so we make these sweeping generalizations of how they are and how our relationship is, be it positive or negative. So Lakshman represents this ability to see at any given moment within a relationship very clearly and objectively, without emotions, attachments, generalizations, exactly what is there. And Pujya Gurudev has often spoke about a man of perfection and how it's not that they see a different world from what they had seen or what we see. It's just that they see it differently. And another quote that I found summarizes this point beautifully is, eyes that look are common, but eyes that see are rare. Think about it.